Welcome back to another episode of Aunt and Andrew, where family's everything.
Until it's not. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Aunt.
Well, this is next week is the season finale
Yeah,
of Southern Charm. Thought this was going to be. I knew it was coming to an end soon. I was trying to think that this show has never had a lot of strong women, and this year it doesn't have any except for Madison.
yeah.
Otherwise, there's never been. Well, we had Cameron, she was strong, and we had, of course, Catherine
I want to make
Calhoun.
something very clear. I think that any woman that has any feelings for someone, if they ever heard, I'm just dating some girl without the black girl, like just some girl, they should be upset, like emotionally. Because if they cared about someone and then they heard anyone say about them, oh, but there's this girl, like I would feel upset if you really thought that you were more than just this girl, right? The reality is whoever this barber is,
Yeah, stylist.
he better be black.
Yeah, I don't know
Because
what
the
he is.
fact that he was like so comfortable, like passing this torch of making JT look like he was disrespecting Vanita, but then also like that there was a racial undertone to it. I want everyone to stop before you try to point the finger at JT, and then also stop before you point the finger at Vanita, and think about the fact that someone felt comfortable making this a bigger deal than it definitely was. Because I believe JT's many things. I don't look at him as someone that dismisses women at all, really, to be honest with you. And
Right.
also, I don't look at him as someone that would be racist in this climate because I think he's too smart for that. So
Yeah,
even if he was racist, I don't
I
imagine
agree.
him being someone that would say it on TV. And
I agree.
I don't personally think he's racist. Now I don't know him, so I can't say that. But I
Right.
do think we can all think he's smart enough to know that that wouldn't be something that he would want to put out there through someone else. Now, the reality is, Whitney, producer, all the other producers, y'all are like a Shania Twain song right now. Do you know it impressing me much? Because the way that you're making JT look this season, shame
Is
on you.
horrible. I have no
Shame
idea
on
why.
you.
Because to me, you're just making him look
With Miss Pat as a bitch, Vanita, this
Mhm.
black girl. What are
Yeah.
you making him look like? That he hates women?
Yep. Oh, and the
JT.
affair with Madison. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
it's
sick.
all lies. All lies.
He's a mess. Clearly, we
Hmm.
saw his house last season.
Yeah, he was a
He
mess. Yeah.
clearly has short boy syndrome. Look at him, the way he acts with Austin.
Yeah.
But being a racist, sorry, keep
No.
grasping for straws. Being anti-woman, keep
No.
grasping for straws. Whereas
Hmm.
we're not focusing on the three men on the cast that have bulldozed all the women for years
Everyone,
to eat
including
them up and
Whitney,
yeah,
who sleeps with all of them.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's
yet
the
the
funny
one that
part.
hasn't, why? And yes, part of it is that he went for what's her name last Taylor, didn't work
Yeah.
out.
No,
He
he
kind of
didn't.
went for Vanita, didn't work out. Now he has this imaginary girlfriend that doesn't come on camera, doesn't work out. Give the
Nobody
guy a
knows
break. He's
about
the
it.
opposite of a womanizer. He can't get one.
Right. You haven't seen him betting anybody. And actually, Vanita was on him, straddling him, and he still didn't tap it.
Thank you.
I mean, that's
So
the crazy
is it
part.
that the production
Because
team
I
is not used to a
guarantee
good
you,
gentleman?
maybe, because same situation, Shep, when he was dating Taylor, Shep would have tapped it. Same situation, Austin was dating Madison, Austin would have tapped it. Now, I can't say Craig with
We
Paige.
don't know.
I don't believe he would because Craig's never really been a cheater on this show.
No,
That's
just a
not it.
liar.
He's a liar. He is a liar, like a big
Exaggerator. He
liar.
twists the words. He's a
He's a
storyteller
storyteller.
and he's an attorney.
Right. That's what he is. And this week solidified that Austin has had a terrible season. He has no storyline the whole year at all. I can't tell
No.
you one thing, Austin.
And
We
Austin's clearly projecting about Craig because he goes, "You're trying to look like this good boy. What did you do all season, Austin?
He did nothing.
You didn't really get drunk. You didn't like, now you maybe drank because you can.
Right.
The reality is that you chose not to get wasted anymore. Craig
Mhm.
chose to not drink anymore because he can't, like me,
Yeah.
decide I'm going to have a couple drinks versus I'm going to get wasted. If he has a couple,
Yeah,
he
but
gets
wasn't he
wasted.
wasted in the Bahamas?
Yeah, because Craig, I
Okay.
think, picks and chooses
Okay.
when he drinks.
Oh,
But the
okay. Yeah.
reality is that
Well, that's
if he
fine.
wanted to watch his behavior, his choice would have to be that he can't drink.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah.
Now
I
I'm
mean,
so
it's,
happy for Madison's husband.
I am so happy he's cancer
I have
free.
to say something though, and I love you, Madison. We'll bring you on as an exclusive if you'd like to come on to set the Conspiracies straight, but I'm just a conspiracist these days. Not a conspiracist. I like to bring up potential conspiracy
Do we take out
ideas.
the aluminum foil?
Yeah.
Okay.
I hope you didn't embellish how bad the cancer was just to come out with this good
Oh,
news.
yeah,
That's all I'm
don't do
saying.
that. Don't be like Brooks.
I'm not.
No,
Oh,
you know what
you're
I mean?
saying
Like
her.
Brooks. Don't be
Now, I
like
believe he
Brooks.
had a scare, but I do
Well,
believe,
he
and maybe it
definitely had
wasn't
throat
Madison.
cancer.
It could have been that production dragged it out to make it more dramatic. And it could have been far less like he has an appointment in 10 days and we'll know more then. Whereas production manipulated it as, oh, I hope he's okay.
Well, you know what? Vanita came out on social media and said that her having uh, dinner with JT over happened after the Bahamas, not before. And that the editing made it seem like she knew already he had a girlfriend when she went to his room and straddled him. When
Whereas that
sh
happened like probably right when they got back to explain why he didn't take her on.
yes, and they flipped
And
it.
she dressed the way she did because he had already turned her down.
Mhm.
So she wasn't
So,
showing up to look sexy, but she also showed up that way because he had turned her down on the trip. And then that's when he then was transparent with her as to why he did. And they probably edited all that out to make it look
mhm,
like that conversation happened before.
yes. So when she made him dinner and had him over was after the Bahamas, not before. And that was editing. And we talk about that all the time. Andrew will say it all the time because he was on a reality show that they take scenes and they take them
Oh,
and they, uh,
they used to film 2 pageants in one weekend and then try to spin it as if we were traveling all the time.
yeah. I
You
mean,
think
so
Hillbilly Heather and Eden Wood traveled as much as that?
no, but what I'm saying is that we talk about, Andrew talks about the editing all the time.
It's crazy.
And
If
so
you ever want to see how
they
crazy it
did
is, I've
this
said this
editing.
before on this podcast, but it's a great exercise. If they're at dinner or they're at a table, look at the drink level, how much water is left
Hmm.
or liquid is left. It's
Right.
usually
Or
not
their
water.
drinks. So you have
Yeah.
an idea of what they're up to and everything.
Imagine they just bring a drink over and then you hear something said where then 3 seconds later, the drink's half gone.
Hmm. But I
Doesn't
don't
work like that.
understand. Vanita keeps on saying that JT's her former friend. And he was done dirty this week, JT. Again, he's been done dirty again. Craig lied about the cane. Craig lied against about Madison and saying that they were having an affair. Madison's been nasty to him this year. Austin's been horrible to him this year. I would say the only
I
one
think
decent.
Benita's the only one that's
Even
justified.
Leva, even Lever was a little
But
bit like,
I think Benita's the only one that's justified because I think her issue with him is that like he should be the one coming out to say this conversation was actually filmed after the trip you're about to see. Like,
mhm.
I just want to make it clear that Benita had no idea the extent of the relationship I had with the girl. And he
Yeah,
did.
and well, but Miss Pat started
I
following
get it.
him this week, and he said, "Oh, thank you, Miss Pat. You don't know it means the world to me that you follow me now." I mean, he's insecure because
I think that he doesn't like, I think that it's so wrong that
his
a lot
car
of people
shows he's
don't put
insecure.
themselves in a position to be taken advantage of because they're closed off in their first season, and that's why they usually don't have a good one, and that's why they're usually gone. Look at Rodrigo. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right.
He made another funny comment this week. I
Yeah,
forget
I
what it
know. He
was,
was good.
but
Yeah.
he was again. Oh, the $500 poker chip. That
Yeah,
made me
he had a
laugh.
5 Now, have you ever left the casino with a
With a
coupon?
tag, with a voucher. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I hate it.
I
It's
know.
like
Imagine
six,
if you
seven
were
hundred
away and you
bucks.
didn't want to go back. And then when he goes, do you think I can mail it to Sienna?
Yeah, it was so good. I
I
know.
would have been funny if he was like, do you think I can mail it to Sienna and ask her to Venmo me 500? Like she can
Yeah.
go cash it in.
Or even
I would
400.
have called her.
I would have said, "Can you Venmo me 400 and you can have the 5?" Like
Oh,
that's your
100%.
yeah, that's your finder's
That's
fee,
probably
so to
what he
speak.
did. I would have done
I
it with the
hope
bellman
so.
at the hotel, probably
Yeah.
not her. But
Yeah, now let's get to Paige and Craig.
oh, it's sad to
Because
watch.
what they did to JT is dirty all around.
Yeah, but what they're doing to Paige and Craig's relationship is also dirty. It's just
Dirty.
equally dirty.
It's just a different dirty.
They're
First
doing
of
it on
all,
each show. They're making Craig look bad on Summer House and they're making Paige look bad on Southern Charm.
but Paige is telling you where she's really is. There
Oh
is
no, I
so
know.
much foreshadowing by Paige now that you know. when she says, like, they mate and they cut off their dicks, and that's what I'm going to do. And, someday you may never see me again. I could be gone, and all of that. She's telling him without telling him. She definitely has the upper hand.
Okay, and I'll tell you this. Paige has a huge upper hand, but I'll tell you this too. He's not. I'll say this. I'm gonna say this as an example. There are two people in my life. You'll know who I'm talking about. I can't say their relationship.
No, never.
Where the woman in the marriage is far more just makes more money, has a big had it like was the only one that had a job for a while. But I will tell you this, when you see them together with their children and you don't know that backstory, you don't see insecurity from the male that they are in a different role than their wife. And
Agreed.
that's why you can let like that's why the woman in that relationship is able to continue to have that career and all that because there's never an undertone of like,
They're equals.
yeah, they're equals. And even the girl, which I always wonder how this was the case for a long time, was able to have a lot of respect for her husband. But it was just like that worked for them. They were in that space. And I give a man a lot of credit. The same way that we get all upset at men when we feel like they're cutting women down, I think it's, and I have this respect for your husband. You get to do what you want. You got your podcast. You do all your things. There's never anything like you could become Joe Rogan of your world, and
Oh, I would
he would
love to
never.
be Joe
He would
Rogan.
literally be like, "Yeah, she's
Oh,
great."
good. He'd be like, I don't have to work as much.
I know
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
and
That's
that's
all
the
it'd be
part
about.
for me that I sit back and
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute, like you look at like there's just relationships that you see out there where you're like, oh wow, like that's, and usually it's the man gets a like there was a couple on Potomac that was like this. Let me tell you something. For the average family in America, if you've gone on The Housewives for so many seasons and you're making 700, $800,000 on just filming the show alone, I could see why a man that maybe has good like digital media skills or like has the ability to help that brand, that platform make
Yeah, yeah,
more
yeah.
money that they
Right.
I met a speaker this week who literally her husband quit his job when she really broke into the speaking space and she gets a good amount of money to speak and he's her like manager
Yeah,
because why would you do if you have children if you're why would you not
of course.
say, okay, my wife, Paige, or girlfriend, but future wife, is
Yeah.
going on a 50 or 60 city tour where they're
Tour.
selling out the biggest of performance
Making
halls.
serious money for
And
a
again,
reality
remember, they're
D-list
doing that
celebrity.
because of their podcast
Of
that
course.
already has hundreds of thousands of listeners per
Yeah.
week. And I've said this already. You can make the average, they say the average that you make on a podcast is if, so that you all know this ain't our profit that we're making here, is 10,000 listeners
Yeah.
brings you $1,000, right?
Okay.
So if you're having, say, 500,000 listeners at your podcast every week, that's 50 grand a week. So Paige and Hannah are probably making about 10 to 15,000 each per week. Then they got to pay taxes. I get it, but that's per week.
But
Just on
that's
the
just
podcast.
one gig.
That's
Then
one
they
area of their bucket. Then they got their
Right.
social influencer payments.
Right. They do
get the
stuff
show
for
payments
Amazon. They've got their
Hannah does
show.
she does her Amazon. Hannah had her Netflix special. She does comedy gigs on her own. She's part of different things, roasts, all that. Like she's brought in that comedy world. Paige is brought in that
Yeah.
influencer world. They host the red carpet on things. This is a multi-million-dollar per year brand.
Yeah.
So I don't think anyone should look and Craig has his own stores. So the reality is like my whole thing is this, Paige. If you're like Cheryl Lee Ralph says this all the time, her husband is
Yeah.
state senator in Pennsylvania. Right?
Okay.
They live
Yeah.
in separate places. And
Yeah.
they just recently, because she had an interview with her People cover story where she for the first time ever spoke this out loud. Because I think
Okay.
people all the time were like, how's he a state senator and you live in LA filming Avid Elementary?
Yeah.
And she finally said, we don't sleep in the same bed. We live in different places. And it's worked for how many,
Yeah.
30 years or whatever.
Oh,
Because
yeah. Good for
they
them.
travel together, they do their things together. And it's something where like independence in your marriage is a great thing. It
Great.
actually is the only relationships that I say where I would look and be like, wow, they truly are in love in all of the real reasons. That's why when anyone says, oh, you and your partner, because we too have opposite schedules,
Yeah.
bet on us, baby. Like, come for me. I'll seriously come for the foundation that I have with Brad. I dare you.
Okay. So get back to Paige.
The reality is like that Paige was looking at a relationship as having such a concrete foundation that
Mm,
they could have their lives and that they could know that the other person was cheering each other on. And that's why they've consistently filmed on each other's shows, leaned into each other.
mm-hmm.
Whereas Craig was introducing a 2.0 to their relationship that Paige wasn't ready for. So when people say, oh, she wasn't in it, she was very much in it for the fact that she was the one that could control what comes out of her hoo-ha
Mm-hmm.
children. And
Yeah.
so she's saying it's very rich for you to say, let's start a family and have kids because you don't have to change your day to day when it comes to like what you have to give up to do that. I would be the one that has to do that. Now, yes, your world would change, but you don't
Yes.
have to say like, you can't do some of the same fashion things because you're going to grow a baby bump. You can't say that like you would have had to stop flying because
N-
there was a time that you have to stop flying and that you would have had to change the trajectory of your business
Career.
that you have with someone else. It's not just to put it
But
on pause.
Paige and Craig, if they were together and they got married and they had a family, she could easily pivot into a mother influencer.
Of course she would, but that's
Yeah.
not what's made that's not being true to herself. That would be a pivot that wasn't true to herself. Craig could sell pillows even when he has a kid. He doesn't have to
Yeah.
spend any time in the hospital other than the days that the baby's born, and God forbid the baby's healthy so that the baby's out of the hospital.
Yeah,
But
but
then his
Paige,
staff can run his business. Paige is
yeah, I
a
know, but
talent
Paige,
on the airwaves.
I
She is the
understand that,
pillow.
but she could still make money as a mother.
She could, but she'd have to change what her business is. Craig does not have to.
But she would just pivot.
But why does she have to pivot if she's not ready? He doesn't have to pivot at all.
Well, she doesn't have to. And he's older. He's like almost 10 years older than her.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
So
there are different phases of their life. A man
exactly. The
by
one that has a
40 would
time
like a
clock is the one
child.
saying that they're comfortable waiting a few more years, especially
Right.
knowing that like
Yeah,
we're
but
also
Paige
not
is what,
talking.
29 or so?
Yeah, but we're also not saying like, oh, the show has gotten successful. I don't think people realize in the grand scheme of podcast success
Okay.
where Paige is at.
Correct. And how lucrative it is.
Paige is like, okay, we have like Joe Rogan, Call Her Daddy. They're at the peak top, right?
Right.
Then you have though like
A
the
lot of
people
middle.
who are famous for podcasting.
Yeah.
I
Like
know
even
that,
Megan Kelly and stuff, say.
and then we have like where they gained more fame, even though they had a platform before, their
Hmm.
podcast took them to that next level. I would like to
Right.
say that right now in this moment, probably to do a little bit with Megan Kelly, Don Lemon's at a higher place than he was when he was at CNN because he's found a way to be
Agreed.
more independent and his
Yes.
personality aligns
Is
better with
able.
that
And he can
when
be
he's able
him.
to be himself and not
Yeah.
under a network, the same
I
way
agree.
Megan Kelly. So
Yeah.
Paige and Hannah are in
Hmm.
that same boat. Paige has just found a way to stay getting that summer house check. Hannah couldn't though. She had to step away because her way of doing it was humor and she had to be in more in that comedy world. Well, then together they created Giggly Squad. So there is far more at risk. Craig has to always follow that Bravo blueprint. I don't think that there's much to his pillow company without Bravo.
I agree.
There is more to Paige as a personality that makes you laugh and that you
Yeah,
listen to.
because she's
And let
yeah.
me tell you something, there's power there because you know why?
Why?
My little sister started watching, your niece started
Yeah.
watching Salt Lake City Housewives. Why? Because Paige and Hannah couldn't stop talking about it on Giggly Squad.
See? So she had to see
It
what it was
wasn't
all
because she
about.
listened to Aunt and Andrew. Okay?
Oh, she should.
She did, does when she'll listen to it
Oh,
when they review Salt Lake, I'm
hey.
sure, because she watches the show now. But
Yeah.
she listens to Paige and Hannah because she tunes into their pop culture. And it's a little bit about the Bowen Yang and Matt Rogers too, because they had Angie on their podcast and she loved the episode. So she was like, ooh, I got to watch this now. But
Oh,
the
okay.
reality is,
Well,
is
that's
they
good.
are bringing people to Bravo. It's not Bravo bringing people to them. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Now tell me something. Craig telling Paige, like, he's an alcoholic and all of it. Now, why are we just, first of all, hearing that the whole family's a bunch of alcoholics?
Also, like, I just need to know
And
something like,
is there still this preconceived notion that if you're an alcoholic, that you absolutely positively are not functioning as a human being? Because every alcoholic I know, that's just me, is a functioning human being. Now they may not be functioning at their potential, but there's this like uh, uh
well, because you don't
stereotype.
hang out with the alcoholics that aren't functioning. They're on Mass and Cass in Boston.
I
If you
know
want to
that.
go
Well, I
spend some
don't go
time with
there. So
them,
I'm saying, but the
yeah.
majority of us don't go to mass in case.
I'm just saying, I think that like the majority of people you meet that are alcoholics, just like the majority that I meet that are alcoholics, are very much functioning because
They're
I don't go into
functioning.
circles of desperation. So it's
No,
like,
they're a whole
but
different
it's one of
level.
the reasons why even with my cocaine stuff, I've always said like people don't get it because they think of the drug addict as the person on the street. And there are lots of drug addicts that are not. I think
Well,
that
I
we need to
know.
pay attention to the
I
Craig
agree.
Adderall thing because
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The
Adderall kept,
Adderall.
I have a feeling that Craig's Adderall was like armor on his alcoholism for a while.
Oh, hmm.
I know because I have
You did.
it's a magical trick, and when it stops having its impact, that's when you got to blow a big line. So Craig, good job. You didn't get deep in that, but I think the Adderall has a lot to do as to why a lot of other stuff wasn't brought up.
Do you think Craig is being authentic, though?
I think that Craig might be, and again, he's on a show, so I don't shame him for this. He doesn't have the opportunity to pick and choose the parts of his acknowledgement about his addiction that get shown on camera. I feel like if I had cameras following me when I first put it out there to the world that I was an addict, you would
Mm.
have seen like parts of me that maybe were less they weren't as thought out about like why I was doing like why like I he doesn't have the choice to share things that don't always show him great. Like I think part of why Craig's doing this is maybe he sees his world crumbling down a little bit. It's like
Oh.
projecting a little bit.
Oh, maybe. You mean with Paige?
Paige is getting bigger. Their relationship
Do you
isn't.
think he's threatened by Paige?
Yes, but I also think
Oh,
it's more
okay.
than that. I think he feels his relationship is threatened by Paige's success.
Okay.
And
All right. But I
he
will
should have.
say, I do think he's coming off very inauthentic
Oh
this
yeah.
year, more so than before. And but he's always been kind of a gaslighter, Craig, with
Oh
everybody.
yeah,
I
he's
mean,
an
his
arrogant
life,
narcissist on top
yeah,
of himself being a little bit of like a
all of that. And
yeah,
he's good looking, he's handsome. I mean, he's by far the best looking guy on Bravo. I mean, nobody else comes close. And as far as I'm concerned,
Captain Jason. Have you seen him?
yeah, he's fine, but he's on a boat. He can't really get to him.
What about Madison's husband?
Oh, yeah, but he's just like a excess. He's a cameo. He's a cameo.
Oh, you mean full-time person?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm talking about a real. I mean, Craig is one of the
I will
best.
say that Matt Nordgren, who was on Most Eligible Dallas back in the day, the former University of Texas quarterback, who I was his publicist for a little bit,
Okay,
he was
yeah.
better looking than Craig. So,
All right.
a
Well, I don't.
long-term Bravo celebrity, I think you're right.
Yeah, that's been on. I mean, there's not too many that are as good looking as Craig. So, I mean, he's full of himself. He's a TV star. He's got Sewing Down South. He's
I
got the
think that if you
hottest
saw him in
girl.
person, that you wouldn't think he's as good looking because he's short.
Okay, but he's got the hot Bravo
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's good. He's great.
girlfriend.
Yep.
No, but his girlfriend's hot. She's at the top of her game. He's
Hmm.
got his company. I mean, he's got everything going for him. He's got an
You're right.
ego involved. He's good looking. He looks better than he ever did. When they show old
That's true.
pictures of him, oof,
Oh,
he was
absolutely.
suffering. Who's your mess?
It has to be
I have a few.
it has to be the barber, but I don't know his name.
Yeah.
And then my other mess has to be Craig, unfortunately. I think you're not showing self-awareness. The conversation he had with I didn't even like that Paige walked in and was like, "Where do you want me to sit?" Like it was so weird. Like
Yeah.
I think Craig is like what we don't like. I think Craig is why there's like all this wokeness around feminism and women. It's like I don't think women need to be put on a pedestal if men don't put them down on the ground. Like, do you know what
Yeah.
I'm
No.
saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I
Totally.
think some people get annoyed by like the empower women when their husbands or partners are like very much like, yeah, I already do. Like, why are you being so like? But Craig is like, it was just weird. Like, and I can see why that doesn't mix well with Paige and why this is going to happen this way.
Well, I think Craig is messy, but I think the mess is Vanita. Because the way she
Maybe.
was jumping around on her bed, so upset that he said some black girl, and I
But
mean,
I can understand her perspective there
no, I
too.
understood
Yeah,
her perspective,
the
but
way she was hearing it.
everything about walking down the street, will you be my plus one, after everything that transpired, whether it was before or after or whatever, she's looking a little desperate for him and she might care for him. And we don't even know when she was walking down the street because we found out that the
You're
Bahamas
right.
was dinner was after the Bahamas. So we don't even know when these happened. But for whatever reason, they're editing her to be sort of
Messy.
no, not messy. Very obsessed girl. Like, you
Yeah,
know how
messy.
girls get
Messy.
when it's like they
Yeah,
want a
messy.
guy
Yeah,
and they
it's
start
messy.
doing a bunch of
Stage
stupid
5
things.
clinger.
Yeah, a clinger. Yeah, a clinger. And they're
Totally.
kind of showing her to be a clinger, and I don't think she is.
No,
So I don't like that they're portraying her that way, or she's a clinger.
totally. Well,
All right. Follow
don't
us.
cling on to your men this
Next,
week, guys. Follow
next
us.
week is the season finale of Southern Charm.
Yeah. So we love you
All
guys. Follow
right.
us, subscribe, comments. Ooh, love the comments.
Ooh, I love the comments.
Bye, guys.